Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Divine Treasury are proud to have Fansets as its presenting sponsor. Stay tuned for a special discount code worth 10% off your order at fansets.com. Fansets. Our pins have character.
This episode is also sponsored by Science Division, the makers of the world's first interactive Tribble. Stay tuned for a special discount code to bring a Tribble into your home today. Science Division. Trouble's never been this fun.
The divine treasury is made of pure latinum.
From an alternate universe at Podfleet Command, where there are posters of Star Trek Generations lining the walls and statues of Cyrano Jones in the common areas. This is the Divine Treasury podcast. And I might as well introduce myself and my co-host because this will probably be the last time you're hearing from us. My name is Mike, and I am joined by my co-host, Jamie Rogers, collector extraordinaire. Jamie, it was nice being able to work with you here on the network, and hopefully we find a home somewhere else after this.
You forgot to do the Yesterday's Enterprise reference.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, I guess that's the alternate universe then.
This is true.
That could be it.
I mean,
we won't say it's time travel. We'll just say it's an alternate universe.
But I mean, the time travel definitely works. It definitely works to have Tasha Yar
in two places at once.
In two places at once. We know Bill 100% agrees with us on this point.
Absolutely. We are throwing shade at our guest for this episode, Bill Smith, and I'm sure he will appreciate this 100% as he's listening to it. But before we get into that portion of the show, this is the section where we start to talk about the new merchandise that's coming to the market. And Jamie, I know that this is something that you have been looking forward to since they released the original 1701 Enterprise version. Black Alert, USS Discovery has beamed in as a pizza cutter. I mean, well, what more can a collector want but a pizza cutter? And if that isn't enough for you, it's a $35 pizza cutter. Not something I'm getting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm good too. I like pizza.
Me too.
But not enough to have a $35 Discovery pizza cutter.
Now, you can own the Enterprise D pizza cutter, I believe, for the same price if you order it on Amazon.
Mike, no matter how hard you try, still not happening. My Quatlus are spoken for other things than pizza cutters. But
yeah,
thanks for bringing it to my attention, though.
See, the problem with that is I don't even know how I would go about displaying something like that. I mean, and I've seen the Enterprise, the original TOS Enterprise sushi set. Now that at least has some display value to it. It came with the nice wood base. The chopsticks actually look like blue nacelles. I mean, that's pretty cool. I don't know what I would do with a pizza cutter besides cut pizza.
See, unfortunately, if I were to get the pizza cutter, it would have to stay in the box, I think, at this point. So what good is a pizza cutter if it stays in the box?
Well, and I don't even know if it's like a collectible style box that's good for displaying either. So whatever. Not to disparage anyone that might want to buy this, because I know there have been some people who've bought it. It's just not for us.
But please, if you buy this pizza cutter, display it to us on Twitter.
Yeah, send us some pictures. We got to
send
see
us some pictures, like. Please, because and we may send something nice to you in the mail if you display a picture of this.
Yeah, there you go. We have lots of stuff to give away. So if you could send us a picture of send your pictures to @JM Rogers on Twitter.
It's a good thing you said my Twitter handle wrong. So
Yeah. All right.
It's at Trek Legacy.
Yeah. All right. Now I know there was something that you were really excited about that will be jumping onto the market.
Let me see if I remember. Oh, yes. Yes, we have a nice new line of Funko Pops. Very, very excited. And the problem with this new line of Funko Pops is has caused me now, since I'm Mr. Completist, to go back and get some of the Funko Pops that I was missing. So thank you very much, CBS and Funko and all the parties associated with these dreaded things, for putting these on the market. But we got 8 new Funko Pops coming out. We actually have Khan, from how he looked in the original series Space Seed episode. We have a really sharp looking Captain Kirk in his captain's chair. We also have a Mr. Spock holding a cat. My favorite one that I'm seeing here is the Gorn. Shout out to Jay and Kaylia, because I'm sure they're going to be ordering their Gorn very shortly. We also have a slew of Mirror Universe original series characters. So we have Captain Kirk in his Mirror Universe outfit. We have Mr. Spock with his Mirror Universe outfit and his goatee. We have Ahura, and we have Sulu. So 8 new Funko Pops on their way. Already pre-ordered them. So I'm very, very excited about that. I know that 6 of them, so the 4 Mirror Universe ones and the Khan and the Captain's Chair Kirk, those are all available for pre-order right now. The Gorn, you have to pre-order on Target only. It's a Target only exclusive. So you're going to have to check it out on either the Target website or in Target stores. And the Spock holding the cat will be available later on this year on the Funko website. So some things to look forward to in the near future if you are a Funko Pop fan.
Yeah. And, I've got to say, I really like the design of the Funkos. But I don't think I'm going to go crazy buying all of these. I mean, maybe I will in the future. Who knows? But I did place an order for the Captain's Chair one because I had to. I'm going to place an order for the Gorn because that's just too cool to pass up. And then I was talking with Emily and I was showing her everything that was there. And as much as she likes the Mirror Universe, she wasn't really into those, but she does want Spock holding Isis. So I will be getting that for her once it's available.
Yeah, no, they definitely look that Gorn it's one of the most incredible looking Funkos I've ever seen. So yeah, that was like the first one I ordered, to be honest with you. Really good looking. I'm actually kind of surprised that there hasn't been more Star Trek Funko products, other than the TNG ones,
Mm-hmm.
that little small line of original series. And then the Star Trek Beyond ones, that's really it when it comes to Star Trek. You would have thought that they would have gone into this franchise a little bit more, but maybe this is a sign of things to come that we're going to start seeing a little bit more. I know we have the 2 Discovery ones as well, but looks like we're going to maybe start seeing some more of this, which is awesome for people who love Funko.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, and we kind of touch on this in the interview with Bill on this episode, the fact that Star Trek is really kind of fallen behind the 8 ball when it comes to putting their products out there for people to just buy and put on their shelves when it comes to like action figures or even Funko Pops like we're talking about. I mean, Discovery has been on for 3 seasons now that have spread from, when did it start? 2017 through the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. So you're talking 3 years, 3 seasons of TV, and we have 2 Funkos to go with that. I mean, there could have been some cool Funkos that came out of this with the Klingons having been as prominent as they were in first season and even second season. And there could have been some really cool Funkos coming out of this, but who knows? Maybe we have that coming in the future.
Yeah, I mean, even that I'm amazed they only did 2 for Discovery. But I mean, I will say, just like the Gorn, that Saru Funko Pop is incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, I obviously, I have one in my collection. You have one in yours.
Mm-hmm.
So they did a phenomenal job with that. And like I said, I'm surprised that they haven't done more. They haven't touched Picard. They haven't touched Voyager. They haven't touched Deep Space Nine. So you wonder if there's going to be things like Lower Decks coming on down the pipeline as we start getting deeper and deeper into some of these shows.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, as we talk about action figures and how they haven't been all that prominent, Mego has been putting out Star Trek stuff. Not very recently, but within the last couple of years, they've brought the product line back up. They've re-released some of their older figures to the market so that people who are just getting into the franchise have the ability to get some of those. Now, obviously, they're not going to carry the same value as the original Mego figures would, but it's still a cool piece to put on your shelf, or if you have kids, let them play with. But they are delving into Discovery as well. So they've had a Saru Mego figure out there. Michael Burnham has recently been released as well as a Mego figure. And I look at her figure and it falls right in line with the classic Mego figures, where you can tell it's something Star Trek and maybe the hair gives away who it is. But other than that, it really doesn't look like Sonequa or Michael Burnham. But the Pike, on the other hand, that's due to come out soon, that actually looks pretty good, like pretty close to Anson Mount. And it does have the Discovery era Enterprise uniform on Pike. So Mego is continuing to build up their product line and include the new Star Trek characters within that. So they are also putting out the Salt Vampire from the Man Trap, which is actually a pretty cool one.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, it's I got to give them some credit. Because except for the Gorn that they put out in the 70s that was from Land of the Lost, they've done pretty good with the aliens. This Salt Vampire looks fantastic. And then they're releasing or re-releasing, I guess, McCoy and Scotty to look like their original Megos, except I'd say the McCoy and the Scotty actually look a little bit truer to DeForest Kelley and Jimmy Doohan than the originals did. They look pretty good.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the picture right now. It does look pretty cool. Interesting costume, though, I will say. The white and the brown. Definitely definitely in that old style Mego clothing setup.
It looks like it's wearing a potato sack over like wool. But yeah, I don't know where they got the idea. Oh, maybe it's wearing sweatpants too, it looks like. I don't know, but the face is really cool. And that is all there is for items coming to the market. So now comes the time where we're going to announce the winners of our fan sets contest. So we had put it out there to everybody to show us some pictures of your collectibles on Twitter using the hashtag #ConnectingThroughCollecting. And we're going to pick 2 winners now from my randomizer app to determine who gets Magnetic Picard Season 1 Magnetic Deltas from fan sets. So pick number 1, Phil Huffman from the Camp Kittimer group. He showed us some of his stuff on Camp Kittimer. So Phil, we appreciate that. And as soon as we pick our next one, we'll let you guys know how to get in contact with us. So pick number 2, Trekker Ron from Twitter. Ron was one of the first ones to respond to the call for this, and he posted, it looked like it was a cell, I guess a film frame from one of the TOS episodes with Shatner in it, and it had a facsimile signature that came with it, and he's looking to get the real signature to go with it once we're back at conventions. So Ron and Phil, you can reach out to us either on Twitter at divine_treasury. Send us a DM with your address as to where we can send those to, and we'll be sure to get those into the mail as soon as we get your information. So thank you for participating in this contest. And everyone, we have some other stuff from fan sets to give away. We're going to have some cards to give away once we get this Star Trek Picard's cases that come in. We have an Enterprise D Eagle Moss to give away. I mean, we've got a bunch of stuff that we can give away. So we're looking forward to doing some of these here and there as time goes on. So hopefully you feel the urge to get some free stuff from us. So now let's enter the Divine Treasury, and we will talk to the register, which is you and me, and we will let each other know what we got over the last couple weeks since we recorded to add to our collection. So why don't you go first with that, JB?
So I know we were just talking a couple minutes ago about some of the new Funko releases. This really kind of spurred me on to kind of complete some of these other collections, these other Star Trek Funko collections that I hadn't done yet. Obviously, everybody knows that I have the TNG ones, but I have decided to now delve into the Star Trek Beyond, and then even into the original Funko set. But so far, I've gotten some of the Star Trek Beyond ones, most of the principal cast members, obviously. I'm still waiting for Uhura, but like I said, I got pretty much the whole collection of the Beyond ones. And like I said, I'm still waiting for some of the other ones from that original line. So I got those. I did get an order from Fan Sets. I got my Picard episode 9 and episode 10 pins. I also ordered a Gorn pin, and I also got a Soji Women of Trek pin. And the last thing that I got was a Commander Non, which I'm sure you're probably wondering, why did I order that one since I hadn't delved into Discovery at all? Well, this Commander Non pin has her in the red uniform. So because I kind of thought of it from the standpoint of she came from the Enterprise, so I already have Spock, Pike, and number 1, so I figured it would kind of go well with those. So that's why I ordered Commander Non, to put her with those other 3. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is I was super excited. I got my Enterprise D kits 1 and 2. You can see me kind of constructing that a little bit on Twitter. I did post some pictures doing those kits. So it was decks 1 and 2, where the bridge is, obviously. And then it was also the port nacelle. So kind of the top section of the port nacelle. So I was very, very pleased with the quality of these kits. There's definitely some weight to them, and it feels like very high quality. And so far, I'm very, very impressed. And, you know, I can't wait to do my next 4. It was a nice little project I was doing while I was doing my Star Trek Original Series rewatch. And I also got a really cool, interesting gift with that those first 2 packs. It was a coffee mug. So it was a Star Trek The Next Generation coffee mug. And I will say, this thing is pretty sweet looking. I'm holding it up on the screen for you now.
Yeah, I saw that. That's cool.
Even the box is like really cool. I mean, it's so Star Trek, like, you know, Starfleet Corps of Engineers beverage container. The design is really, really cool. It's like a silver metallic Galaxy class starship development project. But even on the side of the box, it says, it's acutograms, terrestrial organic compounds only, not for use with replicator technology, and danger liquids at high temperatures. It's a really cool. I love the box, like just even how it displays. So I have that on my bookshelf now, and like I said, I'm really excited about digging into kits 3 through 6 when they come in next month. So
now, do they only come in monthly?
Yeah, so once a month it'll be 4 kits. So the initial release was the first 2 kits. That's like your introductory package, and then it'll be 4 kits a month. So be looking for me to be posting. Like I said, I'm going to probably post every time on Twitter. I'm going to post what the kits look like, and then obviously what they look like as I complete them, and then obviously as I construct some of the pieces together. I'm going to be displaying some of that, so you guys can check out some of that on Twitter.
Sweet. Is that all you got?
Yeah, is it enough there, Michael?
Well, I had a light week, so talked about a couple weeks ago how I'm delving into collecting some of the signature cards of captains that have been shown on screen. So I was able to get a couple of cheap ones to get things going. I got a Sam Bartholomeo's card from Discovery Season 1, him as Mirror Captain Connor from the Shenzhou. And then I got Captain Abbott from Star Trek Into Darkness from the Bradbury, USS Bradbury, where Spock was assigned to after him and Kirk got in trouble by Pike. So those were a couple of the small things that I got in. So I have, at this point, completed my mini master set of the Star Trek animated series Rittenhouse card set. So it was the full 200 base cards, and then I picked up all of the subsets that went with it. So one of them is the Starship Enterprise Bridge Crew, which was a 9-card set of the principal characters, the main 6 that you would have expected, plus Nurse Chapel, Lieutenant Eriks, and Lieutenant Maress. And those are some nice like holofoil cards. They got some good reflection off of them. Really nice there.
Those are nice.
There was another subset, which was called Captain Kirk in Motion. So they were the only thing I can compare them to, and I don't know if everyone in our listening audience will get the analogy, but the Sport Flicks cards from the 80s, where you could see the players in motion if you move the cards a certain way. That's exactly what these are. It is also a 9-card set. It's just single-sided, but as you move them, it doesn't really show that well on the camera. But
what's actually cool about those is they're kind of like see-through almost too. Like
they are see-through. Yeah,
like the type of material there that they're using. You can see right through the cards. So I always liked cards that were transparent like that.
Mm-hmm. And then another subset that was cool, again, another 9-card subset, was a James Doohan tribute. So these cards came out right as Jimmy Doohan passed away, and they did a subset that is Jimmy Doohan as TOS Scotty in the middle, and then surrounded on both sides of that so on the first side, it's TOS Scotty surrounded by a number of the characters that he portrayed in the animated series. Very cool there. And then when you flip the cards over, so this actually, the way you have to set it up on the page is so that it makes one giant picture. And when you flip it over, it it's another giant picture as well, this time of Jimmy as Scotty in the animated series with the remainder of the characters that he played. So really cool there. I mean, it's got Governor Wesley from the series. It has Lieutenant Kyle. It has the Orions that he played in it. It has the Kazintis that he played. Eric's obviously is on here. They also put out, and this is very indicative of the time period. They put out some CD-ROMs that you could get that had the characters on them. So I believe, I'm not going to pull them out of the case right now. I believe there's 5 of them. It's Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, and Sulu on these. And if you were to put them in a CD-ROM drive, you would actually get some desktop backgrounds off of them. But that was, from what I've read, that was really about all that was offered. The piece de résistance, if I can invoke the French that I never took, was the mini cell cards. So they actually took some cells from the show and put them into cards. So there are 22 of these cards, and each one has a cell within it. And let's see, can I turn this? Well, you can see that you can see through these. When you hold them up to the light, it actually looks like you're watching the show through them, like the Viewmasters or whatever they were called that we had when we were kids, the binocular things. So that's all I got in the mail.
That is cool. I will say those are some sharp looking. I mean, it's just, once again, and I know we had Steve on not too long ago, but I mean, it just goes to show you the stuff he comes up with, with Rittenhouse products is just second to none. Absolutely incredible. And that's a set that obviously I know the animated series is not really popular on most people's lists, but I mean, he did some nice stuff with those cards. There's some sharp looking cards there.
Yeah. And I mean, the card, even the base set on these is beautiful because I think we talked about this with somebody, or maybe it was just the two of us talking about it. The animated series, it was a lot of stop motion stuff within the drawing of it, and they reused a lot of the same stuff. But the art itself was nice when it was stopped. And that's why I think this card set is so beautiful. Now, that is the last physical item that I received in. However, when we were recording the other night, I was online, I was tooling around, and I got to say, I am part of the almost $1 million now in donations that have gone to the Journey documentary for Voyager. I threw down some money so that, and I have not told Emily this, she'll have to be surprised. I threw down some money so that we could put Legacy Trek Podcast in the credits. So that'll be a nice little thing for her to see when she gets to watch that whenever it comes out.
So you just got the credits. Was that the perk that you got, or you should get some other?
Yeah. So eventually the Blu-ray DVD combo will come with that as well. I did spend a little bit more and get myself a replica Janeway mug too, because I wanted to. But other than that was the extent of it. There's some downloadable content that you get. You can download and then print off your own posters if you want from it. But that was it.
That's cool. So actually, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about. It's not something that's new in my collection, but it's something that I found the other day. So I was kind of cleaning out one of my nightstands that had all sorts of junk in there. And at the bottom of my nightstand, because obviously I had put it in there with the intention or plan of actually reading. This is why I listen to so many audiobooks, because As you can see, I have all these paper copies of books, but I never read anything. But I found
no time to read.
Yeah, I found this little book that I had purchased several years ago called The Study of Star Trek Autographs. So it was interesting to find this book that obviously, I mean, is so outdated. It was from like 1994, 1995. So, I mean, it was like before Enterprise even came out. Voyager had just come out, obviously. But it's just really interesting how some of the things in here, and I don't even know where to start, but it just shows how far we've come now with things like eBay and all this other stuff. But it was kind of cool to find this, kind of this little hidden gem that I hadn't seen in a long time. And it obviously kind of, makes me think about some of my things that I've done to accumulate some of my autographs that I have over the years, especially at the creation convention. So, and some of his tips and tricks and stuff like that. So that was kind of something cool. Not a new item in my collection, but almost we know we're going to be talking to our guest, and he's going to talk about something that he found that was lost and he thought he never had, that was damaged and destroyed years ago. So this was kind of made me think of, this was something very similar that I found recently that I totally forgot that I had.
Yeah, that's cool. I'd like to take a moment to talk about Fansets, the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Divine Treasury.
By definition, Fansets is a small business. But when we think about the service and the products that they offer to us as Star Trek fans and customers, their service and products are so big, with offerings from all different types of fandoms, including Scooby-Doo, DC Comics, Batman 66, and Harry Potter.
But since what we talk about on this podcast are Star Trek collectibles, we can talk about the over 300 licensed pins that they carry. Things from such a wide variety, such as badges, micro crew pins, anniversary sets, episode pins from seasons 1 and 2 of Discovery and season 1 of Star Trek Picard. If you go out to the Fansets website, just be ready, because anything that you can possibly dream of that is related to Star Trek that could be in pin form is out there. They release new pins on the 1st and the 15th of every month. So available on April 1st, micro crew pins for Ezri Dax, which I know a lot of people have been waiting for, and one that's probably going to end up in a frame for me, Will Riker with his foot up on a chair on the con station. Not exactly sure what it's going to be on, but it's Riker with his foot up. And we teased this a while back. The emojis that Star Trek had released on Star Trek Day last year are now going to be available in pin format. Yes, they're being called Pinmojis. And on April 1st, the entire set, all 9 pins, will be available at the discounted price of $55.95. And that is to receive, again, all 9 pins. Now, if you're not interested in having the complete set, they will release individually on the 1st of each month for $6.95 each. And they'll be released in the order of when their shows came to TV, starting with Mr. Spock and Geordi LaForge on April 1st.
Those are some awesome releases. I really hope that Lou calls that Riker pin the cool pose Riker pin.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Now, see, all we need now is a Riker in motion doing the Riker maneuver over the chair to sit down.
I'm sure it's coming. Sure it's coming. But as a listener to this show, you can receive 10% off your next order from Fansets by using the code DIVINE, that's DIVINE, at checkout. And remember that you receive free shipping in the U.S. on orders $30 or more.
Fansets. Our pins have character. And we thank Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of the Divine Treasury and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. So on each episode of the Divine Treasury, we look for a collector of all things Star Trek, and we want to see what has gotten them into the hobby and what they have. So you know our guest of this episode for his love of Star Trek Generations and Cyrano Jones. But for the last 6 years, you've also heard him on multiple Star Trek podcasts, including the Trek Geeks. In fact, he's 50% of the reason why there is a Trek Geeks Podcast Network. He's our boss, and he's also the reason why after this introduction, the Divine Treasury will no longer be on this network. Bill Smith, welcome to the Divine Treasury.
That last part especially was 100% true. And let's not.
And that's why it was put in there.
I'm 100% of the reason why there's a Trek Geeks Podcast Network.
Oh, okay.
Because I went to Dan and said, we should start a network.
Fair enough.
So it's basically when you asked about doing a podcast too, right?
Like very similar. Although,
yeah.
For the podcast, he said no. For the network, he said so slight difference. But I am very glad to be here with you guys. I love what you've been doing with your show. I hear great comments about it all the time from friends, and I can't wait to talk about the things that I own.
You might change your mind after spending a little bit of time with us, but that's neither here nor there.
No, it's here. It's here.
All right, so we'll start the conversation off like we normally do, since this typically dives mostly into all the stuff you have Star Trek. We start off to see if you're a collector of anything outside of Star Trek as well.
Not as much. Back in the day, like in the 90s, I used to collect NFL trading cards, and I had some really good ones. I had a Drew Bledsoe rookie. I had a Dan Marino rookie card. I had a Steve Young rookie card. And this is going to come up again later, I'm sure, but I lost a bunch of those during a hurricane when my storage unit flooded. They were sealed in tubs, but I mean, the wind and the force of the roof coming down was so great that it broke pretty much every storage tub I had because, hard plastic, even the Rubbermaid ones broke. And I lost all of those things, including a bunch of Star Trek stuff, which I have an entire list of things that I've lost, some of which may make you cry.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Bill, I have all those cards still. So
it's because you have everything.
I do. This is true.
It's very true. Every time he gets introduced, he is collector extraordinaire, because I mean, if you name it, he either owns it or he has owned it at one point.
These days I buy some Lego sets. I recently bought the Slave One Lego set off of eBay. I have a little Las Vegas cityscape that I love. I have a White House from Lego Architecture. I have some others. My wife bought me the Millennium Falcon. I don't necessarily collect Star Wars Legos, but I do love building Legos. So if I see a set that's cool, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to get that. But it's very casual.
So are you one of those guys with the Legos that you like shut everything down and you just sit there and build? Or do you set up in front of the TV with something on and build that way?
I set up in front of the TV. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I used to do.
I'm not creative enough to not use the instructions.
Oh, me neither.
I freely admit this because I don't know who engineers those Lego sets, but they are brilliant. And especially the Slave One, I love seeing how it comes together. I love seeing the pieces interconnect, and then you go, oh, there's always that light dawns on Marblehead moment. So it's fun. If some people like to do Sudoku, some people like to do crossword puzzles to de-stress. I like to do Legos.
So cool. Obviously, we're here on a Star Trek podcast, I believe, last time I checked. So
Except you have Star Wars behind you.
Yeah, I know. I know, Star Wars
right?
behind me. He's got Star Wars behind him though too. I see a big
It's my wife's, though.
Stormtrooper helmet, and
Yeah, but he's sitting in a chair that says Star Trek on it.
Yeah, what are you sitting on, Rogers?
yeah, whatever.
Bernie
All
and
right.
Phil's?
I'm on a very comfortable couch. It just happens to be in front of my Star Wars wall, Whatever.
Are you yelling at kids to get off your damn lawn while you're there? Or what's going on?
No. All right. So what do you got in your Star Trek collection, Mr. Smith?
Well, can we talk first about the things I no longer have? Because I'm going to admit this straight up. I grew up poor. I didn't have a lot of things growing up, for a good chunk of I should say for many years in the 80s, my family was on food stamps more often than we were not. So the 80s were a tough time. My dad was a carpet salesman. My mom cleaned offices, and there wasn't a lot of spare cash. So I didn't have a lot of things. It wasn't until I started, turning like 18 or so. I have to say, Next Gen premiered the weekend of my 18th birthday. So right around that time, I went out and I got the Galoob action figures and the diecast Enterprise D, which I still have. It sits on my office at work and has ever since 1987. But I lost a bunch of stuff in that hurricane, and we're talking like approximately 40 Hallmark ornaments, every single Star Trek book I ever owned, from all my hardcovers to all of my soft covers, including my first Star Trek novel ever, which was Blackfire by Sonny Cooper. I lost my Playmates Deep Space Nine station. I lost my Playmates USS Defiant. I lost about 30 loose Playmates action figures, including the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover figures. I lost all of my Galoob figures from 1987. I lost a full set of the Voyager action figures on card. But I also lost old issues of like Star Trek Communicator and Starlog, as well as about a half dozen collector's plates and like Star Trek snow globes. That was all in that storage unit. And I was devastated. I really was. There was only one Star Trek collectible from that group that survived, and I'll talk about that later in the exchequer section. But there was one other item that I lost as a kid because I wasn't smart enough to hold on to it. So in 1983, I met Gene Roddenberry. He was doing a lecture at Laconia High School in Laconia, New Hampshire, and this was in between Star Treks 2 and 3. And this was right around the time he was doing his little lecture circuit tour and essentially spoiling the fact that Spock was coming back before the studio wanted people to know he was coming back. And I got Gene Roddenberry's autograph on a folder from my Trapper Keeper.
Wow.
I had come from school. I was standing by the lip of the stage. He had a bunch of kids around him who had all rushed up to meet him. It's really interesting. The parents hung behind. He had a bunch of teenagers hanging out. And the only thing I had, because I didn't have any paper, I had the folder from my Trapper Keeper, and he signed it. I have no idea where it is today. It's gone. Lost forever. I met the great bird of the galaxy. He signed my Trapper Keeper, and it's gone.
I mean, at least you have the memory of asking him a question, though. I mean, I
absolutely do.
Part.
Yeah.
I asked him, I said, do you believe that all of these things you created will exist? And in very Gene fashion, he sort of cocked his head and he says, of course I do. Don't you? He's like, because your generation is going to be the ones who start building it. And isn't that exciting? And I'm like, oh my God, he's right. My generation is going to do all kinds of things.
I got to get to work.
Well, no, clearly not me. he wasn't talking about me. But I mean, I'll never forget that moment with Gene as long as I live. I wish I still had the autograph. But yeah, you're right, Jamie. The memory of that is probably more important to me than that folder from the Trapper Keeper, quite honestly. These days, the stuff I collect I think because of the way I grew up, it's just stuff I just really want, if that makes sense. I don't necessarily fit a pattern. I know, Jamie, I know you're a completionist. I'm not necessarily. So like during COVID, I started buying the Star Trek Funko Pops because I saw a couple of them. I'm like, damn. And I'm going to admit I overpaid on a couple of them, but I mean, there's just some I'm just not going to get because the frugality in me says I'm not paying $175 for Funko. Even though it's the Orion Slave Girl, I'm not paying $175 for it. So
So what if it was Sherry Jackson's character?
Same answer. I as much as I would want it, I would feel intense guilt to do it. I don't, I mean, I understand I have a great career. I've done very well for myself. I'm certainly not rich by any means, but I enjoy being able to collect some of these things. And I reach a point where it's like, I can't justify that. And I think that just goes straight back to my childhood.
It's funny that you say that, because I'm gonna tell a quick story about my very first convention. My dad took me to. We were visiting one of my aunts down in New Jersey, and we found out that there was a convention in Cherry Hill the weekend we were down there. So we went there, and I was all jazzed because Shatner was there, and this was back before they had schedules for getting autographs and stuff like that. And the guys in the vendor room said, we do these all the time. He very rarely will sign anything for anyone. He's here to do his stage appearance, and that's about
wow.
it. Said, okay, whatever, that's fine. So, the only thing I picked up from that show was a Next Generation communicator pin. But we're walking around, and they've got full on season 3 through 7 TNG uniforms. And I'm dying because I was, this was 91. It was the 25th anniversary. So I was 11. I was 11. And my dad is like, if you want it, I'll get it for you. And I'm thinking to myself in my head, I'm 11. I'm going to keep growing. You guys can't afford this. Because at the time, 1991, it was $150.
Yeah, easily.
For an 11-year-old, not a chance. And so same thing. I had that guilt factor as an 11-year-old saying, no way, not doing that. So I did the $15 communicator pin, and that was good for me.
I was 23, and I wouldn't have done it either, simply because it was $150. The first con I ever went to, actually, I didn't even go to. I got snuck into by George Takei. So I was a teenager. It was in Manchester, New Hampshire, at what used to be the center of New Hampshire, and I think now is the downtown hotel, whatever it is. It's right on Elm Street. It's the only big hotel downtown. And I lived up in the Lakes region, and my mom had to go to Manchester for the day. It's like an hour away from our house. I said, well, can you drop me at the hotel? Because I want to go to the Star Trek convention, see if there's anything I can buy. I had like $10 on me, and that was it. I had no concept of how much things cost at a convention. And so I went, and I negotiated with the creation people at the door and said, look, can you just let me, I just want to go to the dealer's room. I'm not going to go to any panels or any other talks. So, well, normally you have to buy a ticket, but go ahead. The only thing I found to buy, and I bought it, was one of those Starfleet Academy window decals, the college type, like the kids who would go to school, to college or university in the 80s and 90s, yep. Sort of clear decal that went in the back windshield of your car. I said, well, I'm going to get a car soon. I want that in the back of my car. So I bought one. And I'm waiting in the lobby for my mom because she says, I'll pick you up outside. Don't be late. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Pre-cell phone.
Yep. Absolutely. Pre-pager, pre-everything.
Yep.
And I'm staring out the window. I'm the only person in the lobby, because there's a talk that's getting ready to go on. And somebody taps me on the shoulder. I turn around, and it's George Takei. I'm like, he's like, are you going inside? I'm like, I don't have a ticket. He goes, I think it's okay if you go with me. And so he was actually the headliner for that convention. So I walked in to the panel room with George Takei, and he said, I think if you sit there, you'll be fine. It was like the last row. And so I stayed, and my mom was mad because she waited for like 45 minutes.
And that was the last convention he went to for a while.
A long time. That's actually true.
Yep. So is there any one thing that got you into collecting Star Trek stuff for yourself? You said you didn't really pick stuff up as a kid. it wasn't until you were, seems like basically at the age where you were making your own money from a job that you really started getting stuff. So was there something that kind of made the spark for you?
Yeah, actually it was Star Wars. So for several of my birthdays as a kid, I got, like many kids did at the time, 78, 79, 80, I got Star Wars toys for my birthday. And there were no corresponding Star Trek toys, obviously, because Star Trek wasn't really doing much. Yeah, the motion picture was filming and there were some things for that, but certainly not the market penetration that Star Wars had. And so as I got older, I'm like, oh, wait a second. There are these other things that exist. Like growing up, I know for a fact I had the Star Trek Freezicles, which I loved. My mom used those things all the time.
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
You know, I had, I used to have a toy called the Cosmic Liquidator, which was a sort of an air pump squirt gun. You had a little belt pack that you wore, and there was a clear hose that connected to a pistol grip. And when I would go outside and play Star Trek, I would pretend that was my phaser and tricorder. So as I thought back on those things, like, well, there have to be other Star Trek things, right? He says. And that's when I discovered sort of the next gen toys that come out for Galoob. That's why I bought the only ones I could find. I found a Picard, a Riker, a Geordi, and there was a fourth red uniform. I don't remember what it was.
Worf.
Yeah, it was Worf. Thank you. And I found the Enterprise D, and I bought two of those, one of which is still on the card. So I have one on my desk at work, which I've always had. The other one sits in a box somewhere, and is unopened still. So that's it, between that, that series of events and realizing that with TNG, there was going to be more stuff. That's what made me go, oh, I could collect things. And that's really what kind of got me going.
So, Bill, let me ask you this question. If you go out and you get figures, like you got the Galoob, are you the type of guy that keeps them in the box? Are you the type of guy that takes them out of the box? What kind of collector are you?
I've changed. So back in the day, so like in 91, 92, when the Playmates figures started coming out, I was a keep them on the card guy. In fact, if there was one I wanted to open, I'd buy two. Because, I wanted that Riker action figure open, with the rips on his uniform and all. But these days, like all the Funko Pops I bought this past year, they're open. They're on my desk. Because I don't get to enjoy them in the box. We did an episode of Trek Geeks about Star Trek collectibles, I want to say 2 years ago, perhaps. Honestly, it's a blur. It could have been, you could have told me it was last month. I don't know, but I want to say it was at least a year and a half ago. And the conclusion I came to was that, life is short. So open the box. Unless these things are so mass produced, there's not that much money you're going to make off them. All those Playmates figures I have on card, I'm maybe going to get $6 for them each.
Yep.
And I paid $4.99 for them in 1991. So I'm really making $1 after 30 years. I'm going to open them at some point. So I say open it, enjoy it. But there was a definite time in life where like, no. This has to go sealed in some kind of box and I can't touch it. No. We got to keep this card pristine because I thought because they were numbered, these are going to be worth something. Okay. Well, I was wrong. And now I got a bunch of toys I can play with.
It's funny. All of us of a certain age remembers the whole sports trading card boon where, oh no, that's got to go. You get that gets put away. You don't touch it. Yep. Because someday it's going to pay for your house. And I can't even pay for some of the collectibles I buy now with the stuff that I collected as a kid.
Well, the problem
Jamie can.
Yeah. Well, the problem with the sports cards in the early 90s, though, is those sets were so ridiculous, like those tops and those. I mean, like every one of those rookie cards, you could be a Hall of Fame baseball player and your rookie card's worth like $1, just some of those stinking sets.
I was lucky because the Dan Marino rookie card that I had at the time was worth about $450. So, I mean, I figured that one might appreciate. It probably didn't because he never won a Super Bowl, but he had all kinds of records. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer, but I would imagine today, if I had that same card, it would probably be worth less than that, if not maybe
$50.
right around on par. Really?
$50.
Yeah. Well, then I'm kind of glad it got destroyed in a hurricane. I've been fortunate that, ever since that hurricane and the flood of my storage unit, I've had people give me things. And this was something I just never expected. There was a guy I used to work with, and when he retired and he decided to downsize, he gave me a box of all kinds of his old Star Trek stuff. And then there was programs from the 1976 Boston Star Trek convention.
Oh, so that's where that came from. Okay.
That's where that came from. There were a couple of fanzines also in there, and I did not know this until last night. There was a copy of the Star Trek Concordance by B. Joe Trimble, first edition, mint.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
I had no idea. I had just been talking about the Concordance with Aaron Harvey.
So you just found that last night when you were looking?
I just found that last night. And I had no idea it was first printing.
Wow.
I was stunned. I stood up there, in stunned silence for a long, long time. But I mean, I've gotten books, Casey Shafsky, who, our good friend, who's also on the network here right now, co-hosting Discovering Trek Enterprise, bought me a complete set of the Blish books, the adaptations of the episodes from TOS in novel form. And he's bought me a couple of other things over the years, and I've just been grateful to experience the kindness of friends and loved ones. I didn't know that some of this stuff was going to come my way, but in many ways, this is not necessarily stuff I might have sought out myself. So I have the benefit of my collection almost being a little crowdsourced, which I like even more.
Yeah, it tells a little bit more of a story for it, and the thing that I take away from you, having found the Concordance, and for book aficionados, first edition is the big deal.
Yeah,
it's probably not worth that much in reality, but and we'll get into this later with the awards part. The sentimentality of it is so much higher. Hey, this is a first edition by the person that basically helped save Star Trek in the 60s. This is like the Star Trek Bible here. Someone
I've met briefly in passing at STLV. Someone to whom we all owe our Star Trek fandom. And then and the Trimbles, kind of bristle at that notion because, like us, they're just fans. But they're fans who played a unique part in the history of this franchise. Without some of their efforts and being spurred on by Gene to kind of get the letter writing campaign going and other things, or continuing the Concordance, none of this happens. None of what we're doing today happens. And that's pretty amazing.
And I even think about it from a collectible standpoint too. I mean, when they were running Lincoln Enterprise and some of the products they were putting out to even promote the show further, I mean, there's a lot of wonderful things that they did. And I mean, they really kind of got a raw deal in that in the end, if you really think about how things ended up transpiring with Lincoln Enterprises. But I mean, they had a lot to do on the collectible side too, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because you look back at that now and you think about the entire reason that the IDIC emblem that Spock wears came into being was to market it. It really was the first piece of product placement ever in Star Trek. And it's only because Gene wanted to sell them through Lincoln Enterprises. You think about that and you think about what Star Trek merchandise is today and licensing. And it's really kind of unbelievable if you think about it.
And I just got 2 of those edict symbols today from Fansets. So party on.
Now let's take some time to talk about our friends at Science Division. They've made the world's first interactive Tribble that you can control with your smartphone.
Collectors know what collectors want, and that's what Jay and Kaylee are. They're collectors. So they've put the time and the attention to detail into their product that you would expect for something as awesome as these Tribbles. right down to the selection of the Tribble fur.
You know, when you download that K7 app, you can name your Tribble, you can assign it to a ship. You can even put it into different modes, such as at ease, on duty, and watchdog. And then if you have like Bill Smith coming over to visit and he's looking at my Dan Marino rookie card, at the push of a button, you can put him in watchdog and scare away those pesky guests. But we know in the end, Tribbles are not dangerous.
Wait, you said it wrong. You said it wrong. Tribbles are not dangerous.
Ooh, we might have to save that.
Ooh, that was
just run it just like this. Don't even edit it because it's what makes the ad work.
Yeah, that's right. So as an exclusive for our listeners, you can receive $5 off your very own Tribble when, yes, this is not a joke, you use the code Cyrano at checkout. That is CYRANO. Receive $5 off your very own Tribble.
Science Division. Troubles never been this fun. And we want to thank our friends at Science Division for sponsoring this week's show.
I have to say, as the person who represents the network, Jay and Kaylia, genuinely two of the nicest people on this planet or any other.
It's so true.
All right, Mr. Smith, is there something specific that you focus on when you collect? You know, well, specifically Star Trek stuff. What do you specifically like to focus on?
It's really weird because I feel like I used to have a focus and these days I really don't. It's more or less the things that I see that I just like that speak to me somehow. Like I didn't even pay attention to the Funko Pops until I saw one that was like, oh. And that was the Saru Funko Pop. When that one came out, I'm like, oh. And then my wife had recently bought all of the Office ones because she's a huge Office fan. And I'm like, well, I know they have a bunch of Star Trek ones. I got to go back and look at these. And so I did. And that's when I bought, let's see, I think I've got about 15 of them up there. I don't have them all, but I have the ones I want. And that's what matters.
It's so crazy because Funko Pops weren't even on my radar either at all. And I probably have told this story before, but like literally somebody bought me a Star Wars one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was right around Christmas time. It's, here's this. It was Chewbacca in a Hoth scene. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I start looking and there's like, oh, there's 6 in the set. All right, let me get all 6 of them.
He can't resist.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, let me look at what they got for Star Trek. And then I get the Next Generation ones, obviously. And then I had no intention of buying the 2 Discovery ones. And then like you, I saw the Saru and I'm like, wow, I can't believe the quality of this fun. So I bought that one too. Yeah. So,
I also have a couple of Batman ones.
Ooh, those are cool.
I have the 89 Batman, which I don't necessarily like as much because I don't like the Tim Burton movie. And I have the Batman Arkham game. I think it's Arkham Asylum, whichever Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, pick an Arkham. It's that Batman. So,
yeah, I've got some of the Office ones myself. Whenever I see them anywhere, I can't resist picking them up. But like Jamie and like you, I saw the Discovery ones, so I was able to pick them both up very cheap. But when the Saru came in, I showed everyone in the family, and same reaction as you, Bill. Ooh. Well, that's really nice.
Yeah. I even bought the Mego Saru doll because of the sculpt on the face. Because I thought of all the Megos, it's actually the one I think I like the most as far as detail.
It's almost the most accurate of all the Megos.
Agreed. And that's saying something because I think that some of the other ones look really good. The Data one I think looks fantastic. But the Saru one is just it's almost like they took a digital scan of Doug made up his Saru and went with it. And I hope that's what they did because it's damn near flawless.
I'm assuming you bought that online because I haven't been able to find it anywhere locally.
I did. I bought it on Amazon.
Yeah.
And I think I paid about $8 for it.
Yeah, not that expensive.
No, not at all.
I will say, I mean, talking about Saru and isn't Doug Jones like the nicest guy on the planet? I mean,
Yes.
my word, hugging everybody, and he must be like really not doing well with COVID, with how expressive he is. And
He really is. I've had the good fortune to meet him a couple of times here in Manchester, New Hampshire at Granite State Comic Con and at STLV. And each time there's always a hug involved. There's always, that sort of intimacy is not the right word, but it's a very one-on-one interaction. You don't feel like you're going to
personal.
It's incredibly personal. It's not like when you have Shatner, and this is not to pile on Shatner because I'm a big Shatner fan, but it's not like, when he signs something and then maybe looks up. These days, he's a lot better about it. Most recently, when I got something signed by Shatner, he was great. And I can tell that story if you want me to, but Doug is just another level. I've never had a celebrity interaction like the one I've had with Doug Jones, and I've had it twice now.
I'm going to assume that the Shatner story is the con license plate.
Why, this little bad boy right here?
Yeah. Go ahead. Tell the story.
And people listening can't see this, but you can see his sort of chicken scratching right there. And it
worst
looks
autograph on the planet.
It really is. Because, if anyone has watched Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, has seen William Shatner's autograph, none of the ones I have look like that. This one looks like it says John Slater. It's on my New Hampshire license plate that says Con. And instead of doing it the long way, he just grabbed it and did it that way. But I will say this. He was incredibly pleasant. He was almost gregarious. So the plate got handed in front of me. He goes, "Oh, look at this. This is fantastic. I love this. Where do you want me to sign it? I'll sign it anywhere. Just tell me where. I think this is so fantastic." And he's smiling the whole time. I said, "Honestly, if you want to sign it right on that right edge," he goes, "Perfect." And he signs it. He goes, "There it is. How's that?" And I'm like, "That's awesome." And on the inside, I'm thinking, dude, come on, really? That's like a square inch. It's like a postage stamp. But he's very different from, the stories of the Shatner that are told of the 80s and 90s. This is a guy who has come to realize what the fans mean. And I've seen nothing but great interactions. I'm sure that he's had others, but my interactions with William Shatner have always been incredibly positive and where he's almost been very, very grateful, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah. I got to say, I was so I got to meet him for the first time a little over a year ago in Providence. And I was a little nervous because I had Emily with me. And my dad.
Oh, right.
So my dad, who grew up on Star Trek, watched it in first run. And I'm feeling like, the first Star Trek person that he ever met was Nichelle Nichols. This is never going to compare to her. And he was same thing. He was very personal. He talked to Emily for a minute or two. My father brought up 3 generations of Star Trek fans. He said, "Oh, that's so neat." When he was personalizing his signature to us, he noticed that the spelling of Emily's name is in the original French, and he recognized that as a French Canadian. And then when we went for our photo session later, we walked up and he goes, "Oh, hey, it's the 3 generations." I was like, "You got to be kidding me. This is like storybook. This doesn't happen with him."
It's the only Star Trek Generations that's worth seeing right there.
You have said otherwise. So I think what you're saying,
your father and your daughter were there.
Yeah, I was going to say you're talking about skipping a generation.
Well, I think that's true of most things, isn't it?
I had a good experience with Shatner too, but I will say the few pieces that I have that he's autographed, absolutely atrocious. I got a photo op with him, and I remember, like, do I get the 8x10 of him as Kirk, or do I get the photo op autographed? And I ended up getting the photo op, and it was literally like a W and a T, like but he was very very friendly. So I was actually, when I was in line to get the autograph from him, somebody was telling me a story about him where they brought up one of those like collector's plates, and they said that, you know, they were walking up and they wanted it signed in silver pen because the plate was like black. So, you know, they wanted the silver to pop. So they said they went up, they handed the plate to the security guard who was standing next to him and said, can Mr. Shatner sign in silver? And William Shatner was signing everything in black, supposedly. And supposedly he got the plate, looked up at the looked down, flicked the pen off, and then signed it in black. So the kid was telling me the horror story the entire time I'm going up to get the autograph. So I was a little nervous, like, okay, I hope this goes well, but I always had good experiences with them.
Dan and I joke many times about his autograph from William Shatner. I cannot repeat what it looks like it says, but every time Dan and I see it, we laugh because it looks like something not very nice. It looks like a word that should not be used on a podcast and in general conversation. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm just mine at least looks like it says John Slater. I'm going to stick with that. People ask me, I'll probably say it's John Slater.
I'm going to have to look at mine now and see what it looks like.
Especially turn on the side, see if it looks different.
So the art of collecting. So it sounds like, not having a major focus on something. It sounds like maybe you haven't fallen into the realm of having to buy a huge lot of things to get the one thing in there that you want. But maybe the relationship side of things is more where you fall into. But go ahead and let me know.
No, I think that's a fair and accurate assessment. I think that these days, the number of items I buy is certainly significantly less than the things I look for when I'm at the convention. And at the convention, I'm looking primarily for interactions. You know, at this age, I don't necessarily need more stuff, but I do love more memories. And so I do opt for some photo ops. I have been known to splurge on those a little bit, like the Deep Space Nine cast one they did back for DS920. I have gotten most of the signatures on that one with the exception of Avery Brooks, unfortunately. I do have Avery's autograph on other things, but I mean, I've got autographs from all kinds of people, either on photos of me with them or on things like Trek Geeks podcast album covers that we've had printed out. So like I have Nana Visitor's autograph on that. And I got that in Vegas.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Or like somebody with Alexander Siddig, he was kind enough to let us mail him a couple of covers and we did, and he signed him and he returned them. So I have Sid's autograph, but I mean, I've got Shatner a couple of times. My first Star Trek autograph was actually Michael Dorn. And I got that at a convention in Providence, Rhode Island that he did during, while TNG was on. The episode Night Terrors premiered that weekend. And I remember him coming out on stage and going, yeah, how about that episode, huh? And, but I mean, I've got Patrick Stewart's autograph, which somebody gave me as a gift. I wish I had gotten Avery Brooks' autograph on a baseball because so many people did that day. I have Jonathan Frakes. I have Nichelle Nichols. But one of the things I really love is that I decided when Discovery came out that I was going to get as many Discovery signatures on a Bye Bye Robot print as I could. So I have a print from Bye Bye Robot that I love. It's kind of, got a red tone and the Discovery's in there and it looks pretty awesome. And on that one, I've got Sonequa Martin Green and Mary Wiseman and Anthony Rapp, Wilson Cruz, Doug Jones, Jason Isaacs, Shazad Latif, Mary Chifo, Sam Bartholomeos. I've got Oyen Oladejo, Ronnie Rowe, Patrick Kwok Chung, Sarah Middick, Anson Mount, Ethan Peck, Jane Brooke, Ken Mitchell, Damon Runyon, Rekha Sharma, and I think I'm missing somebody.
Emily Coots.
Yes, that's what I'm missing. So, yeah. So I may add some more to that. But I said when I got Ethan Peck at Trek Gondoroga that print was done, but yeah, maybe it's not done. Maybe I'm still going to round it out some more because there's
David
still plenty of room.
Yeah.
You know, plenty of room left on that.
You know what's so funny about that autograph poster that you talked about? I remember being in Vegas because we took a picture together.
Yeah, we did
that year in Vegas. And I remember seeing you going in and out of all the Discovery lines. Like I'd be waiting for like Doug Jones and I'd see you like trying to, get everybody's autograph throughout that whole time, with your poster. And I remember being like, man, he's getting a lot of signatures on that poster.
But I gamed that whole thing too, because I knew there were some actors who were going to be in Manchester, New Hampshire a month later. And the prices are lower at some of these smaller cons. So whereas I may have paid, $90 or $100 for Doug Jones in Vegas, it was only $50 or $60 in Manchester because it's a sliding scale for those autograph fees. So, if you're looking to collect some of those autographs, yeah, you can do it at Star Trek Las Vegas and you'll have one hell of an experience. But if there's a smaller con that's close to you, you can wait and get it there and probably get better interaction because Vegas is just so jam-packed with people.
I've been telling Jamie that because I haven't made it to Vegas yet. We're still working on that, and I don't know if COVID is going to allow for that this year for me with taking care of my parents and my mother-in-law and everything. Right. But the smaller cons, oh man. And I got to say, Emily has some issues with crowds. So sure. The smaller cons have been great for her. She enjoys them. I mean, we were at Providence last year, and the Saturday at Providence is jam-packed. And she was having some issues that day. The only thing that kept her going during the day was she knew she was going to meet Kate Mulgrew, and she was going to get to see Ethan Peck for like the 50th time. Her and Ethan are like buds now.
Oh, they really are.
So, that was what kept her going during the day. But, she got to have firsthand interaction with Ethan Peck and with Anson Mount. And, Anson Mount wanted his picture taken with her. That's the small con thing. And you know what? Yeah, the prices are better. I'll definitely say that. But it's the interaction part that I've enjoyed much more on the small cons.
I mean, Ethan Peck even dresses like her too. They wear the same.
I know, right? That's right.
Right. The interaction I had with Doug Jones in Manchester was probably about 3 times longer than the one in Vegas. Because it could be. I wrote an article for StarTrek.com on what I learned from Saru, and the photo that's at the header of that was actually taken in Manchester, New Hampshire. Because time allows for that kind of thing, even though there's a line of people. So I love small cons. As life hopefully starts to return to normal, I hope to do more of them, either just as an attendee or even if Trek Geeks is represented there somehow, because it's smaller cons are really how my fandom got started. That very first one that George stuck me into.
And without having had the STLV experience, but having it vicariously through everyone that I interact with on Twitter, it seems to me like the prevailing thought is if you want to meet people, meet the actors, small cons is the way to go. When you want to get together with the Star Trek community at large, STLV is the place to go.
I think that's largely true, although you can meet a good number of cast members in Vegas or even creatives. I mean, there was one night at iBar at the Rio in Vegas. I was sitting next to Jeff Russo, and we were, both enjoying our cocktails and drinking. And talking, drinking and talking. Yeah. I promise I'm only drinking water tonight, but I can't do that at a smaller con, just because there are so many people. And Jeff just happened to sit down next to me, like, hey, you're that guy from Tonic. But I love cons. I love people. You're right. Vegas is kind of a unicorn. It's where Star Trek family gets together, and it's the one time every year that you get that many Trekkies in one place, and it's something special. So yeah, I think for the gathering and the fraternity of it all, absolutely. I have to agree with that.
That's a good way to describe it, the fraternity.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I will say, I will add this to the conversation too. I think I'm going to be doing what you did with Discovery with Strange New Worlds.
I think I'll be doing that too.
I picked up, all I can remember is his first name, Stephen, from England. He does these great lithos. And
I think I know the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got one of, I mean, at this point, it was the Discovery Enterprise crew, but now it's Strange New Worlds, the big three, and then the ancillary crew that was shown on Discovery.
Nice.
Got Ethan Peck to sign it, and the future has all kinds of hope as to getting the rest of them on there.
And the future is just getting brighter. I mean, what Star Trek Picard? I mean, there's all kinds of shows going to happen. Lower Decks. I would love to have some Lower Decks art that the voice actor signed. That would be amazing. Of course, I have all those pins. And can we take a moment to talk about Fansets pins? Because first, I buy my pins. Even though Fansets is a sponsor on the Trek Geeks Network and is the presenting sponsor, I am a customer of Fansets because I love their stuff. I was a customer long before they were ever a sponsor on Trek Geeks. So I have 2 giant binders because that's really the only way I can think to keep them right now. I don't have enough wall space because I have so much wall art I don't know what to do with. I have about 175 Fansets pins. Probably more on the way, actually, because I think I put it in order the other day. In fact, yeah, I did, because there's that Elnor Choose to Live pin that I know I ordered. So I've got about another 8 or 9 pins coming my way. I have 4 different master sets. And I already have reservations in for the master sets they're going to do this year. So I'm a huge, huge lover of what Fansets does in their product. And this is not a plug by any means. The first time we saw them at Star Trek Las Vegas, I adored their product because it made me think of the whole Disney pin trading, that happens at the parks. And I'm like, how cool would it be if something like that happened with Star Trek? But then I started buying these pins. I'm like, I don't want to trade these. I love these.
Exactly.
These are amazing. And you get to wear your fandom. How great is that? It's different than a t-shirt. It's different than, putting on a comm badge. You can walk around wearing a character pin, or, you can wear any one of an episode pin or a ship pin, and you get to express that part of your fandom, which I think is completely unique.
My first Fansets purchase was a character pin to put on our lanyards on our cruise to Alaska. I got one for me, and I got one for Emily. And, we were like, yep, we're sold. And ever since then, oh my goodness. And Jamie and I, same thing. We definitely buy our pins. In fact, when I ordered my Voyager master set, when it came in, I got a Cerritos pin in there, the bar pin.
Yeah.
And immediately I'm sending Lou a email. Hey, I didn't order this. He's like, no, that's for you. Sending that out to you. Like, oh man, this is great. I've never, I don't know what it's like to get stuff just given to me.
Yeah.
There's go ahead, Jamie.
No, he loves to throw stuff in my packages all the time. I love looking at new and creative ways to display them, as people see, with some of the stuff that I post. But I never was into pins ever. Like, never had any desire. And then just the quality of the product was just second to none.
You're welcome.
I mean, yeah. I can't wait till he has more autograph pins. Like, I love the autograph pins. They're just phenomenal. And I mean, I know we had him on the show recently, and he's got a lot lined up and ready to go when COVID frees up. But I just, the quality is just incredible. It's incredible.
There's another aspect of my collection that I forgot to mention, and that's ever since I've become a podcaster, I have had the great good fortune of being sent promotional and media type things from CBS. And I realized that that's not something everybody has access to. And I try to be very mindful of that, and I'm very grateful every time it happens because I know it could stop tomorrow. CBS is under no obligation to send this stuff. So for the Star Trek Lower Decks premiere, they sent out these incredible swag boxes that were just amazing. And the one thing that sits on my desk, you mentioned this, the Cerritos bar sign, is the USS Cerritos Martini Shaker that they sent as part of that box. And you can't buy these. I'm sure you could get it on eBay from somebody selling it, but it came with a whole bunch of stuff. Discovery, they did something very similar. Star Trek Day, they sent out a swag box. I'm like, this is really kind of cool. And this has all happened within the last year since everything had to go virtual. So this is probably one of the more recent additions to my collection, this Martini Shaker, but this one means a great deal to me because it symbolizes everything that Dan and I and all of our friends like the two of you have helped build here at Trek Geeks. To me, this isn't just a Martini Shaker. It's a symbol of everything that we've created as fans that people have made a part of their fandom and access their fandom through the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. So where some people might see just a cocktail accessory, I see a symbol of what we've all done together. And that's why this one in particular means a lot to me.
That's cool. I like that. And going along with that note, one of the things I saw in your pictures that I want to highlight is the poster that you have up on your desk of the Trek Geeks Live that unfortunately we didn't get to have because of COVID. And I think as someone who we've just joined the network, but it's cool that over 5+ years now, it's grown to the point where you can get yourself a haul and talk to people about what you love, and people will actually pay to come and see it.
Well, and the whole idea was to do it for charity because Dan and I aren't looking to get rich off this.
Right.
We aren't looking to get rich off of podcasting either, and we don't, truth be told. We're not raking in money hand over fist, and that's never been the goal. So I came up, as with most things with Trek Geeks, and you guys will learn this as you are now part of the network. I usually say, quote, "Hey, I got a crazy idea," close quote. And that's what has started every kind of benchmark of what's happened with Trek Geeks. So I went to Dan about, a year and a half ago. And I said, "Hey, what do you think about doing a live show?" He's like, "What?" I said, "Hear me out. I want to do it for charity. There's a great nonprofit organization here in New Hampshire called Granite State Dog Recovery. And they help rescue lost dogs who get out, dogs who, may become separated from their families, and they don't stop looking. If you report your dog lost to them, they will keep looking until that dog is found. I think the longest they've gone from a reporting until they've actually caught the dog is 6 years. And that's no joke. Wow. And they brought that dog home. Most of their stories end very happily. Some do not, but they also keep looking in for that eventuality too. And they're a fantastic group. And they run, they're completely volunteer. They're verified 501c3. So we said, "Hey, we're both huge dog lovers. We're both rescue dog owners. Let's do something for them because they're a group that could use it. They have no budget. It's people driving around in their cars, looking for dogs." And so we put together this idea to hatch a show and talk about why Star Trek matters now more than ever. And we booked a small theater in downtown Concord, New Hampshire, the state capital, and put together a program. And it was going to be pretty cool. It was almost going to be like part TED Talk, part live podcast. And we still hope to do it someday. We had even been hoping to bring in a secret special guest, and I don't want to ruin that surprise because it may still happen someday when we do the show. But this would have been somebody from Star Trek, an actor from Star Trek, who would have been in downtown Concord, New Hampshire that night. And they were willing to just show up and do it. And so we're like, yeah. And then COVID happened. So I don't necessarily, these are still things that we want to do. We figure that because we have these microphones, we have a bit of a responsibility. Yeah, we love to get together and laugh and give each other crap and talk about this thing that we love. But if we can't use these microphones for good, then why have them? And that's why we started doing things like the charity effort, or we were even looking to put together one in Vegas for last year with another top name Star Trek person, which I won't say because this one still has a really good chance of happening, if not this year, then next. But also for charity. And like the charity live stream we did with Jonathan Frakes back last summer, all because, we're not going to do it for us. Let's do it for other people. And so that's really kind of become the driving force of some of these exterior things that we do outside of Trek Geeks. So I had that poster commissioned. It looks like the Star Trek The Motion Picture poster. It's, although that event has not happened yet and the poster is outdated, that's always going to be on my wall. So
yeah, it's pretty cool. It kind of highlights, the work that you guys have done over the last 5 years. And now also the fact that, you're both kind of collecting podcasts here on the network.
I almost made that joke. Yeah. In the last year and a half, we've collected almost a dozen podcasts and close to 25 podcasters, because 2 shows have 5 hosts. 5-Year Mission and Sci-Fi Sisters. That's 10 people right there.
Yeah.
We've been very fortunate that people have come to us with concepts and ideas. And in one case, we reached out to people and said, hey, would you like to join us? And that was the Sci-Fi Sisters. But every other idea has come to us. And we hope that says something about what we're trying to do with Trek Geeks, and not make it your typical podcast network. We're proud that we're doing content that nobody else is doing, and in ways that nobody else is doing it. It doesn't sound like every other episode review show out there. The one thing I'm proud of about the Trek Geeks Podcast Network is that all of our shows sound different. And I think that's the biggest testament to what you guys do, what Barry and Shashank do, what 5-Year Mission does, what Johnson and Mike do with Deep Space Pride, you name it, what Sarah and Haley do with Rewind. Every single show sounds completely different from all of the others. And I think the uniqueness and the diversity in approach and fandom is what makes everything fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. And as we've said, we are proud to be able to be on the network and be a part of all of this. So let's now move into the awards section. This seems to be the part that I think all of our guests have the most fun with. So we'll start off with the Kiva Spaghe Award. As you know, Kiva Spaghe stole Data. Data was the one thing that eluded him in his collection. So what is the one collectible that you wish you had that has eluded you for all these years?
If you would ask me this question a year ago, I would have said it was the Dinky Toys diecast metal Enterprise that fires orange discs. But Casey Shafsky found that on eBay after I talked about it in a podcast and bought it for me. I mean, I'm not going to lie. That is one I've literally always wanted since I was a kid, because I knew a kid that had it. And whenever we went over to his house, I played with it, except I didn't have the money to buy it myself. But so when I got that one in the mail as a surprise, I had no idea it was coming. I'm not going to lie. It made me tear up quite a bit, because it was this part of my childhood that I had always hoped to attain and get to do. So I have it now. It's in a box. And as soon as I can figure out how to display it, that sucker is going to be on my desk, because that thing is amazing. So my new white whale is the Star Trek Freezicles that I mentioned briefly earlier. It kills me that I had one as a kid, and neither I nor anyone in my household just didn't understand the value of collectibles back then. But as a kid, I loved that thing. I begged my mom to just make me, high C popsicles all the time, or Hawaiian punch popsicles, and she would. And I don't know how many times that Mr. Spock mold got used. But I that was by far my favorite. That one and the Scotty. I can remember having grape Scotty popsicles all the time. So if I ever get my hands on one of those, that's one I will not take out of the box. Maybe just to look at, but there's no way I'm going to use that to make popsicles.
Because I was going to say, except now the Scotty ones would be made with whiskey and the Chekhov ones with vodka, right?
Well, there's no Chekhov ones, thank God, because I'm not a Chekhov fan either. That's a story for another time. I love Walter. I love Anton. Just not a big Chekhov fan. But there was Mr. Scott, there was Dr. McCoy, there was Captain Kirk, and there was Spock. So there was those four. And the Captain Kirk one was okay, but if it was Spock or Scotty, I was like in the zone. So
Jamie, the moral of the story of what Bill is saying is that you and I have to quickly make friends with Casey so that we get surprise gifts in the mail.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I used to love popsicles. Man, that brings such good memory. My mother used to make them, but I didn't have a Star Trek one, but that's what happens when you're in a poor household, like you said, or they don't have a lot of money.
Though, with technology today, you mean to tell me CBS can't license some silicone molds for popsicles? And don't make it Star Trek Freezicles, but they could do Data and Worf and Odo and who knows, and do a whole variety of them. And you do the silicone molds that you pour the stuff in and set it in your freezer and you're good to go. I mean, they have ice cube molds that are the same way. So let's do some popsicle molds, CBS. Let's get it going on. Come on.
Great idea, Bill. Crazy ideas. All right, so let's go on to our next award, the Grand Nagis Award. So this would be the most valuable, I guess, from a monetary standpoint, most valuable item in your collection.
Well, this was tough for me because I don't necessarily do value as far as monetary goes. And I think a lot of that goes back to my childhood, like I talked about before. But I'll tell you the one item that holds the most value to me personally, beyond sentiment. I mean, the one that I think is probably the one that means the most as far as collectability. And like, if my home were on fire, I'd grab this one item after making sure my wife and my dog were safe. And that's my signed copy of I Am Spock by Leonard Nimoy. He was doing a book signing in Nashua, New Hampshire at the Pheasant Lane Mall, and Dan Davidson and I took a bit of a long lunch from where we worked to go see Leonard. I bought the book there and he signed it. Dan and I had our photo taken with him, which unfortunately was one of the items I lost in my storage unit flood. But that book was the only item I found in that flooded sea of items in my storage unit that was totally undamaged and bone dry. It's as if, the sky said, oh, wait, don't touch that thing because that thing's really cool. That's a signed Leonard Nimoy book. Yeah. Okay. Everything else though, that's gone. I don't necessarily believe in divine providence, but if there ever was such a thing, I have to believe it happened that day. The only other items I have that are valuable to me are my Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan movie poster, which was my first ever purchase on eBay. That it's a genuine lobby poster that came from a theater in Iowa. And then I'd have to say my Mega Blocks USS Enterprise set for the 50th anniversary that my wife bought for me for Christmas one year. That's why that one I think I hold in high regard. And then, of course, my binders have fan set spins because I'm so knee deep in these things that that's probably the most valuable piece of my collection dollar-wise right now.
Or even that Discover poster you have has got to be pretty valuable.
Yeah,
as well.
There's some investment in that one, let me tell you.
Just a bit. All right, so you've talked about some stuff that means a lot to you as far as a value goes, but how about like Picard's Resican flute from The Inner Light? What holds the most sentimentality for you?
There was an item that I thought for the last 10 years had been lost in that same hurricane. And it was the Franz Joseph Starfleet technical manual from the 70s that belonged to my brother John. My brother John, who introduced me to Star Trek as a child. He was about 14 years older than I was. And we fought every night about who was going to watch what. I wanted to watch The $6 Million Man. He wanted to watch Star Trek. He always won. But one of the things he gave me before he moved to Arizona was his copy of the Starfleet Tech Manual. And I was 100% sure that that thing had been destroyed in the storage unit because I saw a vinyl folio, you know, that looked like it was the thing. And I was heartbroken. Last night, after 10 years, I discovered it was at the bottom of one of those Rubbermaid storage bins here in my house and not in the storage unit like I thought it was. And I was floored because to me, that was the one thing that it is the thing I am the most sentimental about because my brother died in 1997 and we never got to watch much Star Trek together past the motion picture. So all of the huge expansion in Star Trek, you know, I don't know if he ever really got to watch Next Gen or Deep Space Nine, but I know he certainly didn't see Voyager or anything else that came after, but that's the piece of my childhood and my fandom that perhaps means the most to me. It's the one that is, you know, we talked about valuable a little while ago. That is the one piece that means the world to me. And when I thought I lost it 10 years ago, I was really despondent. I felt like I'd let my brother down, even though I hadn't. And I went and I bought another one off of eBay, but it wasn't the same because it wasn't my brother's. And to find that one last night really it was an overwhelming emotional moment. And now I am going to put that thing in a fire safe because I will never lose that thing again.
But what do you think your brother would think about all the new Star Trek that's out right now? How do you think he would feel about this insurge that we're seeing right now?
That's hard to say because I don't know how he felt about Next Gen. I think he initially, like me, would have hated Next Gen at first, like I did. You know, in 1987, I was not impressed by Next Gen. I don't know many people who were, let's be honest. Because Encounter at Farpoint, not a great 18th birthday present, let me tell you. I think that over time, he would have enjoyed it. And I think, well, see, he's 14 years older than I was. That means he would have been 65 this past year. I think he would have gotten to a point where he sort of tuned out of it and was, you know, ready to be a grandfather and, you know, just sort of do things. So I think he'd look at it now and go, yeah, okay, that's cool. There's still Star Trek. Is it any good? And then probably offer me a beer. So I'd like to think that he and I would still get together to watch TOS the way we did when I was a kid. And, you know, this time, except we could laugh and tell stories and, you know, have a couple of beers together. But I think that he would, I don't think he'd know what to do with today's Star Trek, to be honest. I think it passed him by.
That's funny because that's slightly younger than my dad, and he is still into even the newer stuff.
And maybe I'm wrong about that, you know, because it's hard to say. You know, at the time, I mean, TOS was the only Star Trek,
right? Yep.
So, and you know, by the time Next Gen came around, he was a family man. He was running his own business in Arizona. You know, he didn't watch a whole lot of TV at that point because he just didn't have time. Who among us does these days? But
it's true.
Yet we still do. So maybe he'd like it. Maybe I would have maybe it would have made him a fan of some of the newer Star Trek. You know, maybe that would have been my payback for him. So I'd like to think that could have been possible.
That's a good thought right there. I gotta say, out of all of the stuff that we talk about on this podcast with our guests, the sentimental award to me is always the best stories because it's the most meaningful to the guest. And this one is no different, you know, especially, you know, something like this where you thought it was lost forever and you were able to find it.
Well, you know, think of all that list of stuff that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that I said I lost in that flood. You know, the roof on the storage unit came caving in and just hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, you know, from the torrential rains or whatever else just soaked everything. So there's water, there's dirt, there's creosote from the roof of the mill building the storage unit was in, and, you know, all kinds of toxic stuff. So, I mean, a lot of those things just couldn't be cleaned up. It was better to pitch it. I wasn't broken up about any of that other stuff. Did it suck? Oh yeah. But nothing the way that felt like I lost that tech manual. When I found that last night, I got to tell you, I really was overcome because I honestly thought it wasn't there. And to have been wrong this whole time, today is a pretty good feeling. 48 hours ago, I still hated the fact that I didn't have that manual anymore. So it's good that being on this podcast helped me discover that. So in a way, you guys are kind of responsible.
Hey, we're connecting through collecting.
That's right.
What can I say?
Oh boy, he's pumping his own tires here.
Well, the key to podcasting is self-marketing.
This is true. Well, I will say, Bill, thank you so much for being with us. Obviously, an honor to be with you here. Honored to be on the network. Where can people find you online if they're finding this podcast first?
Here and there. There's a small little podcast that I'm a part of called Trek Geeks. Of course, you can find me pretty much anywhere you can find Trek Geeks, or on Twitter, I'm at Trek Geek Bill. And of course, if you're on the Book of Faces, there's always the official Trek Geeks Facebook group, Camp Kittimer, where there's no bashing, no gatekeeping, and just a bunch of people who love Star Trek and love to talk about it, including these two yahoos. So on behalf of Dan and me, I want to say that we are overjoyed with having the two of you on the network. You came to us some time ago. You presented an idea. We told you no. You came back with another idea and we said, hey, wait a second. What about this? And it's become the Divine Treasury. And it's a show that we are awfully proud is on our network. And it's one that speaks to the uniqueness of your relationship and also your fandom. And it's one that we're damn proud to have. So thank you both for what you put into this podcast. Podcasting is not easy for anyone listening. It's work. And when it sounds like it's fun, that's when it's even more work. And you guys have a lot of fun. So thank you for all the hard work you put in and for everything you add to Trek Geeks as a show and a network, because Dan and I are damn grateful that you're here.
We appreciate that. And there was one word in all of that stood out above all, is the fact that the two of us are definitely unique. You hit the nail on the head right there.
Well, I mean, that's part of the reason why Trek Geeks is different, because it's Star Trek through the lens of Dan's and my friendship. And the Divine Treasury is not unlike that in a way. It's your look at people's fandoms through their collection, through your friendship. So there's an extra layer there, but it's what makes for interesting listening. And the fact that you guys were the first couple of episodes, I think, was the best part, because we got to learn more about you. Usually it takes podcasts a while to have that happen before the podcasters do sort of their own self-introspection. So to have that data and that experience with you guys right off the bat as a listener was key. And I think that's why the show works so well. So my hat's off to both of you, and just keep doing great things, guys, because you're killing it.
It's funny because the text messages that we always used to exchange even before the show would be, hey, I just got this in the mail. Hey, I just got this in the mail. And, we would also have the exchange of, did you watch last night's episode? What'd you think of it? But, we were always saying, oh, I got this. Did you get this? Have you seen this? Are you going to get it? That kind of thing. So yeah, it's funny that all things just kind of melded into place the way they did.
When it's right, it's right. I knew what I wanted Trek Geeks to be. I just had to get Dan to agree to do it. And at the time, he'd never heard a podcast. 6 years ago, there weren't, a half the podcasts there are now. And Dan had never listened to one. And now that he's a part of the medium and, now has half a network, he gets it. He understands the value that this has to fandom. And it took a while for us both to realize that when you put your voice out there into the ether, you have no idea who's going to listen. And when you realize that people are, and that they connect with it, it really is kind of an overwhelming thing. You go, oh, really? There are people who access their fandom through all of the podcasts on our network. And that's great, because infinite diversity and infinite combination says that has to be true. So just know that you are, to some people out there, what Trek Geeks is to others. And I think that says something. It may take a while before you get some of that feedback or that experience, but I already know out there for a fact that people love your show. So maybe once you get a better co-host, Jamie, you guys will go great places.
I should get the better co-host in the family, I guess.
I was going to say, Emily's on standby, so.
Yeah, how did I get this bovia?
I know, really. I'm the one that pays the bills, that's how.
Oh, I know that feeling.
It's not by my looks either. So anyway, so we are looking for more collectors just like Bill to be featured on the Divine Treasury.
You can find us on Twitter at divine_treasury, on Instagram with the same handle. Obviously, we're both on Facebook. We can be found popping into and out of Camp Kittimer from time to time. So if you'd like to be on the show, you'd like to be a guest here like Bill, direct message us on any one of these platforms, and please send us pictures or videos.
Yeah, my popping into Camp Kittimer is like the Enterprise away team from Star Trek 6. So you got to watch for it because it might come very quickly. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel where you'll find video of the collections of our guests if we've received any. But it's mostly going to be Jamie and I showing some of the stuff that we get in the mail. And also every now and then, when we have a new piece of our collection, a huge new piece to the collection, we'll be unboxing and showing off what we have coming in. If you enjoy listening to me and Jamie drone on about our own collectibles, or possibly you just enjoy listening to the guests come on and talk about theirs, you can subscribe to this podcast in many different ways. Go out to whatever your favorite source of podcasts is and search for the Divine Treasury to find us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and like I said, a number of different areas to check us out.
You can also support the Divine Treasury and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network by supporting us on Patreon. Get access to unedited recordings of every episode on the network, as well as other exclusive content and so many other awesome perks.
Now, if you'd like to become a producer on the network or get access to the raw audio for the Divine Treasury, head over to patreon.com/TrekGeeks and be careful what you wish for.
The Trek Geeks Podcast Network. No one talk Star Trek like we do. We'd also like to thank 5 Year Mission for allowing us to use their awesome music on this show. And collectors, listen up. They're writing a song for every episode of the original series. And this is not just parody music, but it's content based on the show itself. So go to 5yearmission.net, put some CDs in your cart, because we know in collecting, it's not about the downloadable content, but it's about the physical media. So pick up year 1, year 2, year 3, or year 4, as well as The Trouble with Tribbles and Spock's Brain. Make 5 Year Mission a part of your collection today.
And on our next episode, we look forward to talking to John Krikorian of the Trek Profiles podcast about his collection. Until then, this has been episode 10 of the Divine Treasury. The Divine Treasury, connecting through collecting.
Music for the Divine Treasury is provided by 5 Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. The Divine Treasury is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.